All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a huge problem that's been holding back AI coding agents and a really cool open source project that's tackling it head on. It's called InsForge, and it's basically a backend that's been built for AI agents from the ground up. So first, let's just remember the dream, the promise of AI-powered development that we were all so excited about. It was a simple and honestly a very powerful idea.
And this was it, right? The dream was you write one prompt, the AI agent builds your entire application, you hit deploy, and boom, you're done. And you know what? For super simple little demo apps, this actually kind of works. But the second your app needs to be real, with a real backend and user data, that's when the wheels completely fall off.
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The promise versus the reality. On the left, you've got that dream of a perfect UI and a one-click deployment. But on the right, that's the messy truth. The agent starts hallucinating APIs that are just made up. It spits out config files that are totally wrong. And suddenly, you're stuck in the weeds, debugging all this back-end stuff by hand, the exact opposite of what you were promised. So what gives? Why is it that these AI agents are pretty slick with front-end stuff, but then they just hit a wall when it comes to the back-end? Let's dig into that.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of it. Think about it. Front-end development, whether it's React or just plain old HTML, it's predictable. It follows consistent patterns and uses APIs that are well documented. There's a right way to build a React component. But the back-end? Whoa, that is a whole different beast. It's not one single thing. It's this complicated mess of a dozen different systems all trying to talk to each other.
So it's really no surprise that the AI just gets totally lost. A real app needs a database, and the schema has to be just right. It needs authentication, probably with complex auth flows. It needs file storage, serverless functions. The list just keeps going. The AI isn't dealing with one consistent pattern here. It's trying to juggle 8, maybe 10 or more completely different components, and each one has its own unique way of breaking. Good luck with that.
So clearly, trying to make the AI learn our messy human-designed systems, it just doesn't work. This is where the old approach breaks down. So that leads to a new idea, a new approach. What if we built something for them? And this is the big what if question, right? Instead of trying to train these agents on our ridiculously complex infrastructure, what if we flip the script? What if the backend itself was designed for how these AI agents actually think? And the answer to that question comes down to this really cool concept, a semantic layer. Seriously? Think of it like a universal translator. It's this middle layer that sits between the AI agent and all those complex backend parts. The agent can just make a general request, like, hey, I need a place to store user profiles, and the semantic layer translates that into all the nitty-gritty, specific commands that the database and the authentication system can actually understand. And that, right there, is the whole idea behind InsForge. It's a backend platform built from the ground up around the semantic layer concept. So let's see what that actually looks like in practice.
The workflow is actually pretty simple, which is the whole point. First up, the agent basically asks, okay, what can I do here? It pulls down the documentation and sees all the available tools. Second, it uses that knowledge to directly set up the backend components. And third, and here's the kicker, it can actually look at what it just did. It gets clean, structured feedback and logs so it can see if it worked, and if not, it can figure out why and try again. It can actually debug itself. And what can it control? Well, basically all the core building blocks, the primitives you'd need for a real app. We're talking the whole shebang: user authentication, a proper Postgres database, S3-style storage for your files, serverless functions, even a model gateway and site deployment. The works. Okay, so that all sounds great on paper, right? But the real question is, does it actually work? Can an AI agent really use this to build something real? Well, they put it through a pretty serious test to find out.
So they threw a pretty gnarly challenge at it. The task was to take a complex project, an agentic file search app that uses RAG, which is just a fancy way of saying the AI can search through a bunch of documents to find answers, and have an AI agent build and deploy the entire backend for it from scratch. I mean, this is the kind of task that would normally just explode. A total train wreck.
So what happened? Well, check this out. The agent, with InsForge as its backend, built and deployed the whole thing in just 28 minutes. 28 minutes. That's not just fast, that's insane. And we're not talking about some flimsy demo here. What did it actually build in that time?
It spun up a whole series of database tables, all correctly structured for corpora, documents, and embeddings. And get this, it even configured row-level security policies on every single table automatically. Then it set up 2 different storage buckets. This wasn't a toy, this was a real secure backend. So when all was said and done, you had this really solid structure. You've got a proper Postgres database with all the right tables. You've got S3 compatible storage separated out for different files. And this is so important. You've got real security built in from the start, applied everywhere. The agent didn't just build it built it right.
Okay, but here's one of my favorite parts about this whole project. It's not some black box proprietary service that locks you in. The whole thing is open source.
And that open source nature gives you, the developers, some really great choices. You can just hop on their cloud-hosted version at insforge.dev. There's a free tier, so you can kick the tires with 0 friction. Or if you want total control, you can just grab the Docker Compose file and run the entire stack on your own servers. Your call. And that's why this is such a big deal. It's licensed under Apache 2.0, which is super permissive. It means you get full control and transparency, no secrets. You can self-host it, which means you completely avoid getting locked into one vendor's ecosystem forever. And of course, there's a real active community on Discord you can actually talk to.
So when you put all of this together, it leaves us with a pretty massive question, doesn't it? We've all seen the hype around AI coding agents, and we've all felt the frustration when they fall flat. We know the backend is the bottleneck. So, could this be it? Could a semantic layer like this be the key that finally unlocks the original promise? The promise of a true full-stack AI developer? It's a pretty wild thought to end on.